What if everything you've ever been told about death is a lie? It's not a misunderstanding, not a cultural myth, a deliberate deception. From the moment you were old enough to ask what happens when we die, the answers were wrapped in fear, silence, and vague promises of punishment, of heaven, of nothingness. You were taught to fear it, to avoid it, and above all, never question it. But here's the secret no one told you. Death is not the enemy. It's not an end, a punishment, or a black void waiting to swallow you. It's a return, a transformation. And for thousands of years, powerful systems have worked to bury this truth, because if you remembered, you'd stop obeying. You'd stop living like a machine. You'd stop fearing, and you'd start living. See, there's a kind of death that happens long before your final breath. It's a slow, invisible death, the death of your soul's awareness. It starts the moment you accept death as something terrifying, something to run from. And in doing that, you start running from life too. You start playing small. You hide your truth. You follow the rules written by someone else, just to stay safe, just to survive. And that's the tragedy no one talks about. Most people aren't. Afraid of dying, they're already dead inside. You can see it in their eyes. You can feel it in their silence. But if you're here, still watching, still listening, then something inside you hasn't gone dark. Something inside you remembers. You feel it, don't you? That quiet whisper that this world isn't what it seems. That death might not be the end, but the beginning of something much bigger. Something ancient. Something sacred. Maybe, just maybe, you're ready to remember it. If this is resonating, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so YouTube knows you want more content like this. Now, let's go deeper. We live in a world that worships the physical, the visible, the measurable. If you can't touch it, prove it, monetize it, it must not matter. And in that logic, death is the ultimate failure. The thing no one escapes, the shadow everyone avoids. But what if that's not true? What if death is not destruction, but evolution? Not punishment, but invitation. You've probably felt it. Those moments when everything goes quiet. When the noise fades and something deeper breaks through. That life is more than bills, deadlines, and digital noise. A glimpse that this reality might just be the tip of something vast and eternal. That feeling isn't an illusion. It's a memory, a fragment of truth. It scares the systems that profit from your fear. Because if you stopped fearing death, you'd stop following the script. You'd stop playing the role. You'd start asking dangerous questions. Like, who am I really? Why am I here? And what happens when this all ends? Most people never ask. Not because they don't care, but because they've been trained not to. Conditioned to believe that only priests, preachers, or professors have the answers. Taught to outsource their soul to someone else's narrative. But this isn't about religion. This is about remembrance. Because long before temples, texts, and dogmas, humans knew. They didn't believe they experienced. They mapped the afterlife. They taught that death was a journey, not a punishment. A return to something you never really left. So in this video, we're not here to debate doctrines. We're here to remember what your soul already knows. We'll explore the maps left behind by the ancients. We'll walk through the soul's journey after the body fades. Most of all, we'll reclaim the truth that death is not the end. It's the beginning of everything that matters. They told you that death is the end, that it's darkness, silence, finality. But that belief didn't free you. It trapped you. No. Not just in fear of what comes after, but in a limited version of life itself. Let's go deeper. The real death doesn't happen when your heart stops. It happens earlier, quietly, when your inner voice is silenced, when your curiosity is replaced with survival, when your soul forgets what it came here to do. First death, the one that happens while you're still breathing. It begins when you start trading truth for safety. You stop asking why. When you accept that this is just how life is supposed to be. Go to school, get a job, pay bills, die. And somewhere in between, you forget. You forget how to dream. You forget how to feel. You forget how to be you. This isn't an accident. It's by design. A person who fears death clings harder to systems of control. They consume more, obey more, doubt themselves more. They don't question, they conform. And that is the real program to keep you small, silent, obedient, disconnected. Disconnected from the truth that you are eternal. You've been taught to avoid death like a disease, to sanitize it, to never speak of it unless you're in mourning. But avoidance doesn't erase reality. It only blinds you to it. And the truth is, death has never been your enemy. It's always been your mirror. Because when you stop fearing death, you begin to remember life. Real life, not the endless chase. Of goals and metrics, but presence, purpose, expansion. Now imagine this. You're no longer afraid of the end. You're not shrinking from the unknown. Suddenly your choices change. Speak differently, love differently, live differently. Because now you remember that this isn't all there is. That alone is liberation. But where does this knowledge come from? Long before modern religion monopolized the afterlife, ancient cultures had a much different view of death. They didn't see it as a termination point. They saw it as a passage, a sacred crossing from one realm to the next. Let's start with the Egyptians. They called it the Duat, the invisible realm the soul must pass through after death. Their tombs weren't decorated with threats. They were maps. Their Book of the Dead wasn't about fear. It was a guide. It's a manual for how to navigate the unseen. To them, death was a test, not of morality, but of vibration. The heart was weighed against a feather, not by some god's decree, but by truth. Resonance. If your heart was light, you passed on. If it was heavy, with regret, deception, unhealed pain, you stayed behind. And this concept wasn't unique. The Tibetan Book of the Dead speaks of the bardos, intermediate states where the soul encounters visions, memories, illusions, all born from its own consciousness. The demons, your shadows, the deities, your higher self, the path forward, awareness, not escape. You don't battle monsters, you recognize them. You don't beg for salvation, you awaken. And then there are the Gnostics, the forgotten mystics of early Christianity. Their texts were buried, hidden for centuries. Why? Because they revealed something dangerous, that the soul doesn't just go to heaven. It returns to source, through layers, through gates, through realms of self-knowing. Each gate guarded by an archon, a metaphysical force that only yields to knowledge, not belief, not ritual, but inner knowing. They taught that death is not a climb, but a spiral. Not a judgment, but a return. And what's shocking is that all these traditions, separated by oceans and millennia, say the same thing, that death is a journey, that the soul continues. That the real terrain isn't physical, it's vibrational. But here's the twist, this map, it's you, your frequency, your memories, your level of awareness. That's what determines the journey, not what you believed, but what you became. And this changes everything. It means that how you live now shapes what you encounter after. It's not about being good to please a god. It's about becoming aligned with your own truth. Because the afterlife doesn't punish, it reflects. If you've spent your life numb, angry, afraid, you might wake up in a realm that feels just like that. Not because you're bad, but because your vibration echoes. The afterlife doesn't lie. It mirrors. So what happens next? According to thousands of near-death experiences and ancient teachings alike, something extraordinary. When the body dies, the soul doesn't vanish. It detaches, gently, gracefully, like mist lifting from a lake. There's no panic, there's no drama, just silence. A deep peace. And then clarity. Your mind sharpens. You feel more awake than ever. And very often you're not alone. Many report a presence, a guide, not a voice, but a knowing, something familiar and ancient. You see your life not as a movie, but as a field. You feel your actions from every angle, how your words touched others, how your choices rippled through time. It's not judgment, it's awareness. And then the light. Almost everyone speaks of it, a warmth. Peace so overwhelming, it dissolves. You, not in fear, but in remembrance. You don't just recall facts, you remember your essence, that you were never just this body, that you've always been consciousness, wrapped in experience. And then comes the choice. Do you go further? Do you stay close? Do you return? That depends on what you need to heal, what you haven't learned, what your soul chooses next. Because death isn't a wall, it's a door. And beyond it lies a realm that's not static, but intelligent, alive, vibrational. Some call it the astral realm. A world made not of matter, but of thought, where desire becomes form, where intention is instant. The soul finds its first home after death, and what it finds is itself. In the astral, there are no clocks, no buildings, no gravity, just frequency. If you enter with unresolved anger, fear, or shame, the realm reflects that back to you. Not as punishment, but as mirror. You see it, you feel it, you live it until you recognize it and begin to let go. But if you've done the work, if you've lived even a little more awake, more loving, more present, this place opens like a symphony. Colors more vivid than anything on earth. Music that doesn't come from instruments, but from energy. Connection deeper than language. And here you're not alone. You meet beings. Some look familiar, not by face, but by feeling. Soul family, guides, fragments of source that have traveled with you across lifetimes. They don't judge, they remind. They show you, help you understand, help you integrate. Because this isn't heaven. It's not a reward, it's a phase. Place where you release what the world taught you to carry. Identity, shame, masks, stories. And once you've shed enough weight, you begin to rise. To move inward, to prepare for the next step of your journey. But not everyone moves on right away. Some souls stay here, not stuck processing. Some need to relive their pain, others need to understand their actions. Others choose to wait, watching their loved ones, helping in subtle ways, whispering into dreams. Because time here doesn't flow, it expands. A minute can feel like years. A memory can become a classroom. You can revisit lives you forgot. You can begin to glimpse lives yet to come, and yet it's still you. The same thread of soul, remembering itself. But eventually one truth becomes impossible to ignore, that all of this, all the realms, the memories, the journeys, is pointing back to something greater. Something behind all the light, all the lessons. All the stories' source. Not a man in the sky, not a god outside of you, but a field, a current. The intelligence behind creation itself. The presence behind your heartbeat. And to return there is not to arrive. It's to dissolve. You don't meet source, you become it again. And this is the final paradox. That the more you remember who you are, the more you disappear into what you've always been. Not erased. Expanded. Not lost. Liberated. Some souls resist. They hold on to ego, to identity, to the illusion of separateness. And that's okay. They return, reincarnate. Not as punishment, but as choice. Because Earth is a school. One of many. One of the most difficult. If you're here now, alive, breathing, watching, it's because your soul chose this challenge. These lessons, these heartbreaks, this path, you chose the parents, the body, the wounds. It's not because you're broken, but because you were ready. Ready to learn. Ready to grow. Ready to awaken. And if life has felt heavy, if it's broken, you open. Good. Out. It means you're cracking through the illusion. Then death will finish what life began. Because once you cross over, you'll see the web, how every heartbreak had a purpose, how every betrayal shaped your strength, how every loss was a sacred setup for awakening. And then, you'll be asked a question. You want to go back? And you'll know deeply, clearly, whether your work is done, whether you're ready to return to source or return to earth, to love again, to hurt again, to remember again. But there's no pressure. No one's keeping score. There is no angry judge, no eternal hell, no checklist of sins. There is only resonance. Where you go is where you match. So now here, while you're still alive, you must ask, what am I becoming? What energy am I carrying? What version of myself am I rehearsing every single day? Because that's what death reveals. Not a reward, not a punishment, a mirror. Don't escape anything. You meet it, and that's not scary. That's sacred. It means that every breath, every choice, every act of forgiveness matters. It means you're not waiting for your soul to evolve after death. You're evolving it right now. So meditate, not to escape, but to connect. Love, not to earn points, but to remember truth. Slow down, not to fall behind, but to arrive. This life is not meaningless. It's not random. It's rehearsal, preparation, and when the moment comes. For your soul to slip from this body, it won't feel like an ending. It will feel like remembering, like waking up, like coming home. Imagine this, a realm made of thought. Not imagination, not fiction. Thought is form. Welcome to the astral. Here you don't walk, you will. You don't speak, you transmit. Everything responds to what you are, not what you say. There's no pretending in this place. The soul can't fake a frequency. If you cross over, carrying confusion, fear, bitterness, that's what you'll encounter. Not because it's being done to you, but because it's being reflected from you. This isn't judgment. This is energetic honesty. In life, we wear masks. In death, the masks fall. You see, the astral realm isn't designed to punish, it's designed to reveal. That's why some souls feel lost when they get there. Not because they're evil, but because they're unprepared. They've spent a lifetime avoiding themselves. So when they finally meet their unfiltered essence, it's overwhelming. But here's the beauty. It's never permanent. In this realm, clarity is the compass. As soon as you realize what you're seeing is you gain power. The loop breaks, the scenery changes, the fog lifts, because the astral responds instantly to realization. And the more you let go of pain, of stories, of identity, the higher you rise. Higher doesn't mean better, it means lighter. It means your soul begins to remember its true frequency, its native state. That's when the real teachers appear. Beings of light, not fantasy creatures, but ancient intelligences. Some are guides, assigned or chosen. Some are fragments of source you've traveled with, lifetime after lifetime. And some are so old, so beyond form, they don't speak, they resonate. They help you unpack your life, not from shame, but from clarity. They show you memories, not just of this life, but of others. They help you understand your soul contracts, agreements made before you were born, the pain you chose, the lessons you mapped, and yes, you chose. This is one of the most radical truths. Your soul is not a victim of life. It's the architect of experience. You didn't choose the abuse, the trauma, the grief to suffer. You chose it to transcend it, to alchemize it, to grow through it. If that's hard to hear, that's okay. Growth always is. But when you remember this, everything changes. Because now, you're not asking why me. You're asking what for? And that shifts your entire vibration. You stop seeking comfort, you seek clarity. You stop avoiding pain, you look it in the eyes. Because you realize that every soul you've ever loved, lost, fought with, cried over, they were part of your curriculum. Some were teachers, some were mirrors. Some were karmic echoes from lifetimes ago. And in this realm, you see them again. Feel the threads between you, how deep they go. How often they've looped through time and space. And the love, the love, it's not the love we know here. It's not conditional. It doesn't come with rules or fear or performance. It just is. Pure resonance. Some souls stay in this space for what feels like eons. Healing, reflecting, merging with soul family. Others move on. Because beyond the astral, beyond the gates of memory, beyond the karmic loops, is the final pull. The return to source. Not everyone reaches it right away. Some souls reincarnate. Not as punishment, but as continuation. Because there are still threads left unresolved. Still energies out of alignment. Still contracts to fulfill. Earth is one of the most intense realms in existence. Dense, loud, confusing, but also full of potential. The fastest realm for evolution, Every heartbreak, every injustice, every mundane moment is packed with choice. And every choice becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of your soul. That's what karma really is. Not judgment, not reward, but momentum. Every action, every intention. Every thought sends a ripple. Those ripples shape your field. The field becomes your signal. That signal determines where you go next. Not because anyone is sending you there, but because you match it. This is the cosmic law of resonance, and that's why conscious living matters. It's not to impress the divine, but to align with it. Because when you die, you don't start over. You continue. You bring your frequency with you. If your life was lived in fear, in resentment, in stagnation, those frequencies don't vanish at death. They travel with you, not to punish, but to teach. The same is true for joy, peace, and love. They lift you, shape your journey beyond the veil, prepare you for deeper remembrance. That's the real game. Not to win, not to escape, but to remember. And what happens when you do? When your frequency becomes light enough, clear enough, free enough, you begin to dissolve. Not into nothing, but into everything. You return to source. But let's be clear, source is not a god, not a person, not a thing. It's the origin, it's the intelligence behind consciousness, the silence behind sound, awareness. Behind all form, you don't go there, you become it. And in that becoming, identity fades. Not in a scary way, in a relieving one. You are no longer this role, this name, this wound. You are light, infinite, whole. And the love you feel there, it's not describable. It doesn't need to be, because it's the love that built you. It's the love you've been chasing your whole life in relationships, in success, in distraction. It was never out there. It was always you. Now you remember. Some souls stay in that union. Others choose to return, to help, to teach, to heal others still caught in the illusion. These are the bodhisattvas, the volunteers, the guides in training. But all souls eventually return, because the story always leads back home, and now you. Understand, death is not an interruption. It's a continuation. It's not the fall of a curtain. It's the opening of the real stage. And here's the kicker. You don't have to wait to remember. You can start now. Every act of honesty, every moment of stillness, every time you choose presence over distraction, truth over comfort, courage over fear, you're already preparing. You're already awakening. You're already shifting your frequency to meet the world beyond the veil. Because the afterlife isn't separate from this life, it's woven through it. You visit it in dreams, in meditation, in those quiet moments. When time seems to stop and your soul feels close, and when the time comes when your body falls away, you'll recognize it. Not as a stranger, but as home. But if all of this is true, if you really are more than this body, this story, this single lifetime, then here's the real question. Why do we live like we forgot? Why do we keep waiting? Waiting for the right time. Waiting for permission. Waiting to feel ready before we actually start living. That's the next journey, not the one after death. It's the one that begins right now. Because if you're here, still listening, still breathing, still wondering, then something inside you is awake. Remember? And that remembrance comes with a choice. You can keep drifting through someone else's story, or you can start writing your own. You can keep numbing, rushing, fearing, or you can choose to listen to the pull inside your chest. The one that's been quietly asking, isn't there more? There is. And the only thing stopping you is the belief that you're not ready, but you are. And if you want to take the next step, if you want to go deeper into this mystery, into the truth your soul already knows, then stay right here. The journey doesn't end here. It never ends. There's another layer, another question, another door, and it's already opening. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.